It is the evening of the 22nd of the 11th, 2024, and there is a lot of F1 stuff about which we need to talk, and not a lot of time in which we can do it. It's the weekend of Las Vegas Grand Prix. Even sort your life out, Cameron. And we need to talk about FP1 and FP2. I've been deep diving, forensic accounting, due diligence, trying to understand the takeaways. But before then, we need to talk about Red Bull mistakes. We need to talk about Checo Perez's comments. So too, Oscar Jack Piastri has been talking. Toto's wife. Yeah, of course, Cameron. Toto Wolff has been talking about his wife. But again, more pertinently, why there are so many white men, only white men asking questions in drivers' press conferences. It is going to get techie over the next 30 minutes or so. Yeah, loads to talk about, Benzin. We're going to talk today properly back and forth. No men, what's going on? Living on the edge. Ahoy there. Walther, everybody in the chat. Daniel, what's going on? Go on, should we talk about Red Bull first? Because they haven't bought themselves a rear wing, a low downforce one, the likes of which you would use to optimise for lap time and performance at a Las Vegas Grand Prix circuit. What is going on there? And Max Verstappen is paying a penalty for that in real time. Helmut Marko says that Red Bull have no chance at all as far as the Las Vegas Grand Prix. He's even doubled down on that, saying with our performance today, we have no chance at all of second place even, let alone first, he told ORF. Oh, the humanity. Red Bull have come this underprepared without a low downforce wing like the likes of Mercedes. And how do we know this? Well, we only need to look at the speed trap times, don't we? Unless we forget it's only FP1 and FP2, so due diligence has its limits as far as these guys and their data gathering. But here's what I will tell you before we diatribe on low downforce wing gate or lack thereof. In FP1 through the speed trap, I should bring these up on the bloody screen if I had more time, but I will talk you through them. Give some words to the colour. Perez, quickest in, so this is FP1, ladies and gents. In FP1 through the speed trap, now let me take a step back and see the F1 wood before the F1 trees first and foremost. Speed trap times are important, right? Because there's no nullifying for straight line speed. Of course, the more speed you can take through these long turns, and again, low minimum speed short turns, the better. Short duration turns even, the better, right? Checo Perez in free practice was 342 kilometers per hour for the speed trap. Gasly 341. Maximilian Verstappen 3412. Nothing to see there for, eh? Through FP1, but of course that was FP1, and it turns out that these guys would do more fact-finding due diligence than expected. FP2 here with the speed trap times. Gasly again super quick 350, Ocon 347, Piastri in third 344, Norris 344, Maximilian Verstappen in fifth 344. What is going on then, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, Maximilian Verstappen is losing 6 kilometers to Gasly, who was 350 as versus his 344. But what's all this chatter about no low downforce wing if indeed Maximilian Verstappen in FP2 was second or fifth fastest even through the speed trap? Make this make sense? Ladies and gents, Baxty, amateur hour at Red Bull. Well, apparently it's the cost cap that might have something to do with it, right? Because when they turn up at the Italian Grand Prix, for the avoidance of doubt, they come with an Italian Grand Prix specific wing. Lest we forget, this is the last of 3 races, the final trip ahead of the season. And some say that all the money at Red Bull has been spent. No more discretionary spend on catering. Here's what Racing News 365 had to say. Red Bull is stuck without a low downforce wing at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, creating a significant straight line disadvantage to its rivals. Max Verstappen and Checo Perez found themselves off the front running pace in the opening 2 practice sessions in Nevada, with the pair ending FP2 in P17 and P19 respectively. Let's have a look at that, because I think that's interesting. For the avoidance of doubt, let me pitch this at you first. The first Grand Prix, for context, at Las Vegas was in 1950. 5.79 kilometers is the length. Lap record is 1 minute 21 seconds. Number of laps, there will be 53 on Sunday or Saturday. Super early GMT. Race distance will be 306 kilometers. Here's FP2. And I've looked at sector times, right, because that's got to matter. Mercedes, some say, are going to be really quick around here. Well, in FP2, they occupied all of the key positions. Sector 1, Lewis and Russell were fastest on a 26.7 and a 26.9. Sector 2, and again, FP2 I'm talking about here. Sector 2, Lewis was quickest again on a 31.8, followed shortly thereafter by Charles Leclerc on a 31.8 also. Sector 3, George Russell, King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, 36.4. Hamilton, 36.4. So Mercedes are fast then, right? That this car has found its optimal circumstance in which it can operate cold temperatures, of course. There's something about the symbiosis of Mercedes, the W15, in cooler climes, something about its ability to switch on its tyres, and it works well. But I digress. Let me tell you about bloody Red Bull here. Because again, Racing News 365 said that Red Bull didn't have a low downforce ring ready to go, which meant that they needed to do some B&Q, some homemade DIY. They trimmed the rear wing that they brought to the circuit on the back of Verstappen and Perez's car between FP1 and FP2, a solution that is nevertheless inadequate in the fight against teams with specific low downforce configurations. Oh, the humanity. Maybe it is amateur hour, Baxter. Maybe it is amateur hour. Maybe they did just forget to bring a low downforce spec wing to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Although that's very uncharacteristic, is it not, for the Bulls that are red? Racing 365 News continues. We don't have another wing, said a Red Bull spokesman, a smaller rear wing as we see on our competitors. It would be more helpful for sure, Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko confirmed, whilst also explaining that the replacement will not be shipped to Las Vegas overnight. It begs the question, continues Racing News 365's, why did the reigning constructors opt not to bring a low downforce wing to Vegas, and why will it not fly alternatives to Nevada for the rest of the weekend? Here's what I think. I think they understand that they will be good. They will be good. They don't need this. Maximilian Verstappen has it within his hands, and he will manage that gap, the delta in the driver's standings between himself and Mr. Lando Norris. 62 points is the delta, and that leads us on to our next, probably the most important topic on the docket today as we go deep in the chat. Let me read you guys out. Benzi says, did you all see Crofty's delight at a Brit 1-2-3 in practice? I did not. I haven't watched it all, I must confess, Benzi, but it wouldn't surprise me. The British bias. What are we doing? Get Crofty out. Now, you know what? Let me talk seriously about Crofty. I really like David Croft, contrary to popular opinion. Some of his calls have been God tier, right? Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore commentator calls. He's been brilliant. Please see as your Exhibit A, Abu Dhabi 2021. Who will forget? The World Championship is going Dutch. Maximilian Verstappen is your world champion. I mean, bloody Nora can recite it verbatim, mate. And through goes Hamilton, another exhibit. Like, he's good at his best. But that's not to say that he's been at his best all year. I think something's going on there with Crofty, I will be honest with you. Monaco, he did himself and Charles Leclerc and us as viewers all a disservice by not giving that call the importance, the rich linguistic tapestry that Charles Leclerc's first maiden voyage, maiden victory at his home Grand Prix deserved. Bring in Alex Jake, so who knew? For the longest time I thought we were getting the pole position, the world champion of play-by-play F1 commentators in Crofty, the heir to Murray Walker's crown. But when you go and listen to Alex Jakes, just do a side-by-side, I will challenge you. Go and listen to the YouTube of Crofty commentating Charles Leclerc in his final laps, winning his home Grand Prix for the first time, and then go and look at Alex Jakes and tell me that you don't get goosebumps listening to Alex Jakes' call. Flipping Nora. Crofty's the most incompetent announcer in major sport. Oh, the humanity, Michael. Say it's not so. Noman says it's Vettel. Red Bull can wait 4 years. Let me read that out properly. It's like Vettel. Red Bull can go top 4 years, then it's done for a while. Noman, isn't this just the seasonal variance that comes with Formula One? That nothing lasts forever? I remember in 2021, there was no way that I thought Mercedes, that their reign was about to come to an end. How do you mean? This makes no sense. Mercedes, the all-conquering 8-time constructors, 7 drivers' championships, back to back to back to back, 2014, 2013. I can't even remember now. Look at that. 2014 was Abu Dhabi. Who was 2013? Baxter, remind me. But they won a lot of championship. I say all of that to say this. How dare I not remember 2013? Who won? Didn't we do this the other day, Baxter? Go through all the bloody drivers' champions. And now under the pressure, under the lights, the bright ones, just like Valtteri Bottas many cycles ago. I am flaking. I can't even remember. Of course it was Sebastian Vettel. What do you want about, Cameron? Get real. Get real, Cameron. 2010 to 2013. What are you talking about? Must be, eh? Go on then. Here's the parameters that we need to realise and carry front and centre of our minds as far as the deciding factors which way this Drivers' Championship in 2024 might go. Here's what, if Verstappen wins, courtesy of our mates over at the race, if Verstappen wins, he's champion. If he comes second, then Lando Norris needs to win to keep the championship mathematically alive. If Verstappen comes third, Lando Norris needs to win or come second. If Maximilian Verstappen comes third with a fastest lap, Lando needs to win to keep it alive. Verstappen comes fourth, Lando must finish in front of Verstappen. Gets techie. I think those are the main. I think that's what we're dealing with. In fact, let me go a bit deeper. If Max finishes fourth with the fastest lap, Lando must get first or second. If Max finishes fifth, Lando must be in the top three or fourth plus the fastest lap. I think that's where we're looking at, to be honest. I'm convinced if we're doing predictions that Max will go close. I mean, when has he not gone close? I mean, write him off at your peril, right? 17th to first, 43 laps of a 69 lap race. Who is this chap? Oh, stop glazing, Max Cameron. Oh, buy a room, Cameron. Stop with your Maximilian Verstappen. I'm not glazing Max Verstappen. I am cosy bedfellows with sporting excellence. It was once upon a time Lewis Hamilton in 2007, 2008, all the way through 2014, 2020. It was once upon a time Lewis Hamilton, and hopefully it will be Lewis Hamilton again soon in 2025. But I am a moth to a flame as far as sporting excellence, and you'll forgive me. You'll forgive me for my proclivity, do you know what I mean? For celebrating those who master the sports that I love best. But I digress. Let's talk about Checo Perez. Some of the things that I want to talk about as far as the Grand Prix. In fact, let me tell you this first, Andre. You know, you are God tier, sir. Mubashir, you're a legend. Living on the edge says, hi, Mubashir. Problem with Toto is that he's not only the manager, but the owner also. So go on then, Rob. Let's talk about that very quickly. It's oh, gosh, Rob. You're getting me too techie already, sir. Go on, and let's talk about Toto. Because Toto said something. I had Toto as a topic on my docket. Here's what Toto said in the driver's press conference. When he was asked another question by one of the journalists, he responded thus: "You need to be more diverse to give the ladies the microphone. Sorry, I can't be in the press conference answering questions from only white men." Hang on, Toto. I know positive discrimination is a thing, but is that a step too far? Non-rhetorical question. I want you guys to answer me this in the chat because I don't know the answer. He wants, okay, look, I think what he's trying to say, and Toto has a habit of doing this now, putting his foot in his mouth. When his sentiment, his comments even are well-intended, I think they lack in execution. What he means to say, it would be nice to see more diversity in the sport, and I don't think that's a non-controversial topic, right? Can argue against, the excellence. It should be the most excellent, but you got to bake into that, account for that bloody advantage and final resource and socio-economic backgrounds. And there needs to be a levelling of the playing field somewhat, I would argue. This, I think, is what Toto Wolff is trying to say in his sentiment. But to say I'm not taking any more questions from any more white men, it just sounds off, doesn't it? The wording is wrong, and I think this is where Toto Wolff falls down something. This isn't me cursing him, because listen, you try and speak a second language, and and I'm sure Toto speaks more than just two. It's not just German and English. But I think there is something lost as far as Toto when he's talking from the heart. If you understand even ambition, a bit of German, and hear Toto speak in his native tongue, his whole demeanour is changed. I said this about a gazillion of the drivers. The same goes for Max. The same goes for Fernando. Listen to them speak. Listen to Max in Dutch and Fernando in Spanish, and the tone is different. Their true personality comes through. There's no gap between thought and expression. When you're not a native speaker and you're trying to speak a second language, there is this process between your thought and your sentiment and you expressing it, the phonetics as they come out your mouth, and your personality can often get lost in that. And I think that Toto Wolff is suffering as a function of that. That's what we're seeing. And that's been the source of all the comments. The Lewis Hamilton, yeah, everybody's got a shelf life. Well, what you mean to say, chap, is that you're looking to build for the future. You're investing in Kimi Antonelli because that's the no-brainer play. Of course, it is worded like I've just worded it. And you can't even argue against. Indeed, it would be egregious to argue against that. But to say, listen, Lewis is getting a bit old now. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a shelf life. Cognitive sharpness is a currency in Formula One. You've got to have it. Well, and especially if you're talking about that under the umbrella heading of Sir Lewis signing a 1+1, then of course Colt LH are going to come for you. Lewis Hamilton fans around the world will take any excuse at this point to come for Toto Wolff's head. And I think if he just expresses his thoughts a little bit differently, I guarantee you, if Toto had said that in German, in his native tongue, there wouldn't be so many linguistic faux pas. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. But to your point, Rob, Toto Wolff, and again, I feel like this is where Toto's always had one hand behind his back ever so slightly. Toto Wolff is always, it is and will always be an owner come team principal. He's an owner first and a team principal second. I will never forget when Christian Horner, my guy, my favourite team principal on the grid, the legend that is, the man who gets it done each and every single time, who won't sacrifice not even a millisecond of lap time at the altar of fairness or sporting etiquette. I never forget Christian Horner on Netflix's Drive to Survive when he said that of Toto, the boy who cried wolf, he said that dude is a businessman. He's not a true racer. And again, that's not to say that Toto didn't race back in the day, but as far as how much of that he's carried through in November of 2024 as a racing mind and institutes for that as a team principal, Christian Horner quite rightfully questions. How do you know that? Well, only rewind back to 2021 and see his demeanour, his inability to get in the face of Michael Massey as a vulnerable, soft, vulnerable underbelly of a racing director. And ultimately, some might argue that that could have cost Lewis Hamilton a championship. In stark contrast, over at the Bulls that are red, Christian Horner did not miss an opportunity to get in the face of Michael Massey and leverage that together with his old mate Jonathan Wheatley, soon to be team principal of Sauber come Audi. And therein lies the difference, ladies and gentlemen. I understand of Toto Wolff that he's operating within very different parameters as versus Christian Horner, team principal of the Bulls that are red. I get it. Strategic objectives, they are a brand straight down the line, as versus Red Bull, who as far as their brand, I mean, it's synonymous at this point with line stepping, boundary pushing, right? So when they step over the line in Formula One, that's synonymous. Even some might argue that enhances the brand. I completely take that point on board. In that sense, Toto Wolff's hands are absolutely tied. He cannot behave like Christian Horner because that's not befitting of the 33% owner of Mercedes as a parent group, 100%. But yet and still, as I put on my F1 goggles, all I care about is excellence for Pete's sake. And I would never be one to sacrifice not even a millisecond of lap time at the altar of sporting etiquette or fairness. Sport is never and will never ever be fair. Hence why I'll always lean into a Christian Horner for all of his skullduggery. It's techie with Toto, is it not? Benzi says, I love Sky F1. Zooms right in Toto's face. And even then his demeanour, right? You know, when they zoom in on Toto and he's doing one of these, he's just being stoic. I think he's keen not to repeat the scorched earth settings that we saw at Brazil in 2021. You know, when he slammed his headphones down. He doesn't want to be that because, again, why? He knows that that's not befitting of a 33% owner of Daimler or whatever the Mercedes parent group is called these days. Techie, eh? Techie. Walter says Toto equals spaghetti setters. Oh, Safak says, I think Toto means well. He's not always good in finding the right words. This is his Achilles heel, is it not, Safak? Toto's a chihuahua. It is. I don't think. I think we were a bit hard. Let me say this. I was reading that book or listening to the Inside Mercedes F1, from which everybody's extracting these quotes. And when you look at, I think look, shall we be honest? Shall we have a grown-up conversation here? Because sometimes I listen to Mama Cameron, who's a die-hard Lewis Hamilton fan. Bless Mama Cameron, of course. But some of the vitriol, the baseless vitriol, and the nonsense, the spew and the poison that comes out of Mama Cameron's mouth, again, pointed at Toto Wolff. Anybody that she views that potentially stands against in the face of one Sir Lewis Hamilton. I mean, the diatribes, you can't even write them. We couldn't even broadcast them. The language is that bad. Expletive. She would get more than $10,000 fines should the FIA hear her. And I just thought, we normally do the apology to preface some of these videos. I'd like to take the time to say from the bottom of my heart, I want to apologise to absolute, that one. I feel like I've been a bit harsh on Toto. I feel like I've been a bit too keen and eager to put on my Lewis Hamilton glasses and just go scorched earth. Because Toto's done bits for Lewis Hamilton and Lewis Hamilton fans around the world. He absolutely has. And recency bias is absolutely a thing. Maybe I've leaned too far into my recency bias and just been super frustrated at the fact that Lewis doesn't have a car. And if he did have a car, more than likely be winning, if not competing with Maximilian Verstappen for races and therefore championships. Maybe I do need to write a letter of apology to Toto, the boy who cried wolf. You see what I've done there? The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. No, I think Toto Wolff is a god tier. Let me not say team principal. He's a god tier human being. And that's not to say that Ross Brawn didn't have things to say about him in his book, that he's two-faced and he stabbed him in his back. There will always, listen, if you're a billionaire, then there's always going to be a human tax to be paid, right? I don't think he's perfect, but has he done a lot of good for Lewis and people around the world? Is he building an organisation that operates in a way that's enviable as far as its code of conduct and way in which it operates? 1000%. And for that, I've got to respect him. Although there is an equal and opposite downside to that. Per Christian Horner on Netflix's Drive to Survive, if you're not optimised to win races, then what are you optimised for? Christian Horner speaks like that because all he cares about is winning. But I digress. There's other stuff. There's a battle cry from Oscar Piastri. Bad news for Lando and Norris today. In fact, we need to talk. In fact, whilst we're still talking about Las Vegas, let me come back to Las Vegas, because when we're doing FP1 and FP2, all that matters is the long run pace. FP3 coming shortly. Won't be streaming, but we'll be going live for quali as per usual. 30 minutes before lights out for the first Q1 session. It will be 5:30 GMT. I don't know what that means for you guys all over the world. North Americans have it good this time, but I shan't complain. Because those of us living in Europe, 9 times out of 10, we have the whip hand as far as timing. Indeed, the calendar that is F1 2024 is lent towards us. It's built in our image. So I'm not going to complain the one time when I've got to wake up at 5 o'clock. But we will be streaming. Qualifying is going to be an important one. But here's what you need to know. Look, as far as long run pace, and again, I'm going to read out FP1 and FP2 back to back. The averages are what's important. In first, I want to say this is FP1. Okay, look, we'll do FP1 first and then FP2. Average speed. Lando Norris, quickest. 138.6. And again, this is their long runs. These times are on mediums, by the way. Oscar Piastri, mediums. 138.5 average, courtesy of our mates over at F1 Reddit. Charles Leclerc, mediums. 138.7. Sainz, 138.6 as nearest makes no difference. Max Verstappen, 138.9 on his long runs. Again, discounted for anomalous circumstances, slow laps. Checo Perez on a 138 average, 138.8, quicker than Max Verstappen. I doubt it. Something's going on there, Ray. I smell a rat. And then Lewis Hamilton, 138.9 on his long runs. 138.9 is George Russell. So that long run, the 138.9 long runs was from softs. Lewis Hamilton, so they put some fuel in the car with a view to see how the dynamic works, whether Lewis can drive that car at 90% with a view to optimize for the ground effect cars, you know what I mean? Mitigate for the aerodynamic sensitivity around these slow, short duration corners. It's going to get techie for Lewis, and he spoke about it, did he not? He said that the car felt really, really good in free practice, but when he put it on long runs, all of a sudden the pace was gone. He said, got a lot of work to do. He was better as versus Brazil, said Sir Lewis Hamilton, but he said they've got a lot of work to do overnight to try and optimise for the long runs. For why? Because you don't win any points on Saturday. Again, 5:30 GMT will be going live for qualifying. It's going to get techie. I don't know how I'm going to survive. Go on then, the other free practice session, just to give you complete information. Not perfect, but as complete as I can give. And again, McLaren, Ferrari. Lando Norris on average went quickest on a 1:38.6. Am I just reading these out again? Yeah, I've got a duplicate. No worries. Cameron's failed to prepare, so he's prepared to fail, or something like that. That is true. I often wondered why Max does not take advanced English course, at least for the subject of racing and sportsmanship. Rob, it's techie, isn't it? I mean, Max is a multi-million-dollar man now, so he's going to be like, well, what? And plus, Max is wired like that anyway. I'm reading his book, Unstoppable, at the moment. What's going on, MB? I'm reading or listening to it on the old Audibles. Mark Hughes is copy. And what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that Max Verstappen's career before F1 is almost more fascinating than his career in F1. You guys have heard me say that as far as sporting excellence, I'm more fascinated with the journey to than the becoming of. Like now that we all know Max is that guy, like the next one after Sir Lewis Hamilton, it's obvious, right? The story's going to be brilliant, especially when it is a Brazil type performance. That's going to be, like, we'll all revel in that, right? If indeed we are invested in F1 as a sporting endeavour and we understand how rare those types of performances are. Of course we will. But I would contend that the journey of Max Verstappen, all of Jos dropping him off and then picking him back up after he made a critical mistake in karting track, all of the rain-soaked karting sessions on slicks, Max Verstappen's career, like that, he was in a bloody quad bike as young as 2 years old, that he always had an innate feel for traction even when he was 2 or 3, that he's gotten his 10,000 hours in, probably younger than any F1 peddler in here. All of these things that's my subjectivity, and that's what I find fascinating about. And as I'm leaning into it and learning more, even 2015 Monaco as an example, things that I'd forgotten about, that in free practice he was only 200ths away from Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes, for Pete's sake. Maximilian Verstappen then was how old? 17, 18. 200ths away from Sir Lewis in a bloody Mercedes, in its pomp, in his pomp and prime. Max was mate. Mark Hughes puts forth this supposition that the way that you can judge young drivers at that age with that little experience isn't by dint of their consistency, it's their peaks. And Max Verstappen getting so close to Lewis Hamilton in 2016 in a Toro Rosso, 200ths away in free practice, that tells you all you need to know. And parlay that into Kimi Antonelli this year, eh? It's almost like Kimi Antonelli had read that book and was trying to replicate for that. He was using that thesis and wanted to go fastest in free practice to lay down a marker. Patently obvious now, especially when you look back at that and try and connect the dotted lines. Oh, the humanity. I think Toto's, I've read that already. Benzi, MS, you lucky. What happens with MS? I'm missing out on some of these messages. You could see that he couldn't be very happy when the two of them won. Oh, yeah, so you're talking about Toto. When Lewis won his last one, not Silverstone. Or maybe it was Silverstone when he didn't look too pleased. I can't remember. Maybe it was Silverstone when Toto didn't look too pleased. But again, different cultures. I wouldn't necessarily read too much into Toto's countenance. This is why I feel like he gets a bad rap. Just because he doesn't assume the same posture as you, that doesn't mean that he doesn't feel the sentiment the same way you do. So it's a costly mistake to make that. You know what I mean? You superimpose not to not to teach you guys to suck eggs or anything, but I do this a lot. I'm talking personally. Superimpose the way I would react to a circumstance onto somebody else when we're all different here. So people are looking at Toto when Lewis wins, expecting him to punch the air because we're punching the air. But he's a different dude. He's not. He's culturally different. He's stoic and he's a billionaire. Not much will. Do you know what I mean? It's. I don't know. Benzio will absolutely be on Red Bull at some point tomorrow morning. Andre says, I like when Checo went to Red Bull, but he hasn't delivered in a long time. Go on, let's talk about Checo, because he made some comments, didn't he? And I've got them written down somewhere here. Perez said he's all in. Go on, and he was asked about the chances. Go on, I'll read this out. He was asked how much he'd bet on him being a Red Bull driver in 2025, notwithstanding the rumour about Colapinto, about a potential promotion from Liam Lawson, and so too Yuki Tsunoda now. Perez's response, I'm all in. Ergo, you'd bet everything on him being a Red Bull racing driver as at 2025. And I just don't know how to react to this. I feel like the story's as old as the hills, and I'm a bit done with it, if I'm honest. I feel like I'm right where all of these other old F1 drivers are now. A little bit Ralph Schumacher too. I'm just done. Finished. How much underperformance can we tolerate as a F1 community? I don't care about the 20 to 30 million US dollars that he brings in anymore. I see it and understand why it's a reason why Checo Perez would still have a drive. I do understand, but less so now that you've got a Franco Colapinto who mobilises Argentina entire behind him. So too will be able to mobilise the financial resource of Carlos Slim. Why? Because he has told us as much. Slim saying that he would lift, copy and paste the financial resource from Checo Perez if indeed he's no longer a Formula One driver onto one Franco Colapinto. Tells you all you need to know. Franco Colapinto has more charisma in his little finger than Checo Perez has in his entire body. Yeah, Checo Perez did the right thing and came out and distanced himself from the very hate-filled comments of his father, Antonio Perez Garibay. Of course he did, and he should have, and he's to be commended for that. But listen, that's a footnote in the Checo Perez 2024 story, is it not? For Pete's sake, you cannot get out qualified by Logan Sargent, who is driving a Williams no less, with that sort of frequency. From memory, I remember at least 4 times. Those 4 times are the times when Checo Perez has failed to get out of Q1. Out of Q1, for Pete's sake. What are we doing here? This makes no sense. Oh, the humanity et al. The best machine, or at least it has been over the past 36 months since 2021. And he can't break wind in that car. What are we doing? Honestly, it makes no sense. He's a gazillion points behind Max Verstappen. They can't tolerate that. Word on the F1 curb is that the Red Bull, the guys and the girls back at the factory in Milton Keynes are fumigating that they have lost their mind at the altar of Checo Perez's underperformance. So consequential and frequent is it now. Again, they get paid. I want to say, I do know the numbers here because a friend once told me. They'll be getting paid a couple £100. I want to say maybe £500-600 sterling. If indeed they manage to get a month, this is, by the way, as soon as every time they win a race, Red Bull employees will get money. This is the truth. And if they win the constructors, they will get a bonus. It turns out that if they finish third, that all of those employees will lose 40% of said bonus. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not good enough for guys and girls at the Red Bull factory in Milton Keynes who have mortgages to pay, school fees to pay, heating to purchase and buy. Like, what are we doing here? We're looking at Checo. I don't even want to talk to him. What do you do? Like, this is nonsense. You only need, listen, your only job in life, Checo Perez, is to pick up after Maximilian Verstappen. When he doesn't win, you need to be close. What's wrong with that? Every time I look down the grid in Brazil, where is he? You're expecting him to be close. Maximilian Verstappen comes charging through the field from 17th. And where's Checo Perez? Down there in 8th or 9th or wherever he languished. Just nonsense. Unacceptable. I don't know. Bring in Colapinto. And again, word on the F1 curb is that Checo Perez, don't be so secure, mate. I think behind the scenes, if I know anything about my old mate Christian Horner, he'll be having conversations in real time with James Vowles per him coming out of the Williams motorhome. I want to say either at Mexico or Brazil. They're talking. They will be talking. 20 million is the buyout clause. And I think now at this point, I mean, go on, let's go through the numbers quickly. Let's go through these numbers. So Checo Perez gets paid 14 million a year. He brings in 20. So go on, that's a net positive of 6. But he spent 5 of that 6 million on bloody crash damage this year. So what are we doing? We're flat, and then offset against that the extra 4 million that they're losing in the constructors' prize money for coming third as opposed to mate. He's a net detractor. This dude. Nobody can even make a case in financial terms. Not anymore. Get rid of him, and definitely no longer, because Carlos Simmons promised to sponsor Franco Colapinto to the tune, to the same integer that he's doing Checo Perez. So it's a done deal then. It's a no-brainer here. Promote him. Now, I think the only impediment will be the fact that Christian Horner and Helmut Marko sometimes differ. Please see as your Exhibit A, Nick de Vries. Helmut Marko really fancied him. Said that he could be the next one. Let's give him a chance. Christian Horner disagreed, and look how that worked out. This time it sounds like Christian Horner, Franco Colapinto is his man. Marco, if we're going to replace Checo Perez, says let's put Liam Lawson in because we are Red Bull, crafted in Dietrich Mateschitz's image, promoting junior talent from inside within the team. 2025, ladies and gents, is going to be interesting. Oh, and by the way, bad news for Lando Norris because Oscar Jack Piastri is putting out war cries. What's going on Jazzy's table? It's techie this. Techie. Checo needed more coaching. Too late now. I mean, how many coaching sets? I don't think it would hurt him to spend some time with a Rob Wilson again, just as my old mate Peter D. Windsor advised him to. I don't think it can do him any harm at this stage. But bloody Nora, how many sessions do you need, Checo Perez? I think it's something more terminal, you know, because remember, problem is not dissimilar to Lando Norris, who we're going to talk about in a minute. Problem is for Checo that once upon a time he was a God tier 1, right? Full of redeeming feature, super hard to overtake around. Please see 2021 Turkey. Checo Perez was one of the really good ones. You saw him come from the back in a bloody racing point. Force India was incredible. Lots of us had him down as our second favourite driver. He was really good. But now sometimes, again, for the avoidance of doubt, sometimes your peak is like a gaseous substance. The more that you grasp at it, the more that it slips through your fingers. You know what I mean? Checo is the reason they don't have smaller wing. Behave yourself, Safak. That's not true. That sounds like fake news. I'd like to blame Checo Perez for a lot of things, but we've got to give him a fair shake. Surely he can't be the... Oh, I understand what you're saying because he's crashed so much. 4.8 million. So currently in the Destructors Championship, again, courtesy of our mates over at F1 Reddit, the last that I checked out the Destructors Championship, Checo Perez was leading it, having cost Red Bull Racing $4.7 million by dint of his crash damage over the course of the 2024 season. What are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? And now they'll be rubbing up close to the cost cap. Genie, you're an absolute legend. Hello, people. Finally in alive. Let's go, Genie. And again, for the avoidance of doubt, we'll be back 30 minutes before qualifying. We'll go long though. We're talking today. We are just, you know, I'm grateful. Let me say again, for, like, front and center, as if he's not like 200 hours into the stream. This channel is more you than it's me. It has to be. This channel is built on your not insubstantial shoulders. Cameron is merely the name above the door. None of this can happen unless but for you guys interacting with me, calling me out on my bull feathers, fact checking me, telling me you're talking rubbish, Cameron. Do you know what I mean? This is all that we do here. We're a fan channel, an F1 fan channel, seeking to be the goatiest of the goated ones. One day, maybe. If Cameron can pull his finger out, do you know what I mean? Get the merch on the go and get the Patreon out. Those things are coming, I promise you. But again, we've got to continue to put one foot in front of the other, right? Checking is the reason. Crash dummy yikes. AJ said, yeah. MSRS says, speaking of Checo, last year's Las Vegas drivers introduction, the announcement for Checo, I can't remember it, Emma. You know, I'm not sure. I'm a bit of a... This is why... Look, you want me to be honest, Emma? MSRS. This is why I think I'm... Okay, let me tell you guys a story. I remember once upon a time, way back in the day. So this is the Vettel Lewis Hamilton times, and I didn't like at the time. I wasn't a big fan of Sebastian Vettel, finger boy, and I always thought Lewis would spank him if he had access to that Red Bull car. I wasn't a big fan of Sebastian Vettel. Ironically, this is probably the way that a lot of drivers, a lot of Max Verstappen fans feel about Lewis Hamilton. That all those Mercedes here, if Max had that car, that anyway, I digress. Wasn't a big fan of Sebastian Vettel, but many cycles ago, Seb and Lewis sat down and gave an interview. And they were talking about the previous race where Seb had done a very Max Verstappen-esque move in the pit lane. And he'd gone right and he'd overtaken Lewis or something like this. And it looked very controversial and aggressive. And they were talking about it. At the time, Lewis thought, Seb, what do? You got to get penalised for that. You can't overtake in the pit lane. And they brought it up in the interview. Lewis said to Seb, mate, how did you not get a penalty? That's Sebastian Vettel privilege. Like, you should have got a penalty that time. You can't overtake in the pit lane. And Seb turned around to Lewis and said, well, if you read article X, Y, and Z in the race notes, you will see that once you get past a certain point in the pit lane, you're good to overtake on the right. Did you read that? Lewis says Seb. And Lewis says, no, I don't read the race notes. I say all of that to say this. As far as my proclivity towards racing drivers, then that was the moment when Sebastian Vettel had won me over as a fan. Because that's the level of dedication. I want to see racers, right? Pure racers. And in that moment, he made me think that he was... That feels like a man who was dedicated to his craft. And I like that. I see me in that. And as far as Maximilian Verstappen to loop the circle, there's a reason why I'm making this point, this very long-winded, procrastinated story. But as far as Max Verstappen is concerned, he's that right. That's all that he cares about. He's just focused on the racing. And that's why I feel like I'm drawn to Max Verstappen, like I'm off to a flame. There's a reason. One of you guys said something. There is a reason why. Oh, yeah. Talking about Checo presentation. So Max Verstappen doesn't lean into that stuff because he's a pure racer, right? His whole life is dedicated to it. Jumps out the cockpit on a Sunday, and Sunday afternoon he'll be back in his sim rig racing like Le Mans 24 hours of sim. You know what I mean? That's who Max Verstappen is. He's only a racing driver, nothing more or less. And I kind of like that. Max Verstappen, again, he hasn't been so defamatory about Las Vegas this time round. But last time round, you heard him talking about the pomp and circumstance. And he just shunned it to the side, didn't he? He was like, nope, that is not for me. And I don't hate that. Like, I just like my drivers to be racing drivers. But that's just me. Do you know what I mean? Everybody doesn't have to be the same. And again, this is subjectivity. Kyori, I don't know if it's ego. Kyori is going to do an impression of my... Do I do this? Kyori, remind me. 5:30, I'm going to do an impression. I was trying to do an impression to my friend of my mum talking about Lewis Hamilton. Patois and all. It was chaos. Then I don't know if it's ego. If there's a driver on the grid that has the least amount, clearly F1 drivers and elite sportsmen all do. Checo's one of them. I don't think Checo has a big ego. I don't think he has a big ego. But it's, I don't know. Jorge says, Cam, you're down on Checo because you love Checo. That seems like a good call. Let me read that out. You guys talking quickly. You're down on Checo because you love Checo. I get it, mate. He's a legend. Don't be down on him because of 2024. The Phoenix, right? Here's hoping, Jorge. Here's hoping. I hope that you're right. I would like for Checo's story to end positively. I would. Be a nice story, man. I mean, he gave him the opportunity to retire at the Mexican Grand Prix this year, and he never took it, did he? So we'll see, I guess. We'll see. Kyori, it's a madness. I recorded it. I'll play it. Well, Kyori, it's chaos. I know, but after 21, Checo's father said Perez will be a world champion. He said that again recently, didn't he, Daniel? That once he gets the wheels underneath him, requisite commensurate to a championship winning campaign, that Checo Perez will be a champion. What? What do we do? But again, Ralph said of Checo's old man that he might lean into confirmation bias a tad. Oh, shoot. This is what we need to talk. Go on, then. Let me whiz through. So I'm yabbing on too long. Right. Problems for Lando Norris. because Oscar Piastri is now talking a good game, as if we didn't know that one day that dude was going to be a champion. Here's what he had to say. He is coming for Lando Norris verbatim. I struggled in a couple of races early on in the season, and obviously the last couple of races have been a bit painful as well. He told the Las Vegas 2024 racing program. From the program, is this where you're taking your quotes, Cameron? But I think with more experience, they're not the same problems as I faced last year, aka I am advancing, getting better in real time. And you would expect this from an Oscar Jack Piastri, would you not? Sophomore season settings, of course he's going to get better. Lando Norris, this is his 6th season. What are you talking about? Of course he's going to get better. Denise, you're a legend. And Afka is also an absolute legend. A proper legend. Legend of the God tier variety. Oscar Jack continues. But I think with more experience, there won't be the same problems that I faced last year. They've just been either off weekends or something else. So the problem for Oscar Jack many moons ago was that he was fast. But it was always an issue of tyre management, was it not? Now, however, it feels like, on the back of his performance at Baku, when to manage those tyres for so many laps with a Charles Leclerc, a fire-breathing Charles Leclerc, breathing down your neck, Dracarys settings. If you can do that, then that makes you know, right, again, per Marcuse's Max Verstappen biography, Unstoppable, you judge these younger drivers by their peaks, not their medians or their troughs, by how fast they are on their best day. And then in the end, it comes with consistency comes experience, or vice versa. I said that the one way around, haven't I? Oscar Jack Piastri continues, I'll just keep trying to improve in the back end of this year, try and learn as much as I can, blah, blah, blah. Here's the peak though. Ted Kravitz said when he asked Oscar Jack Piastri about team orders, he said that his face lit up on the understanding that no longer, because of the circumstance in the Drivers' Championship, that Lando's teammate is now 62 points behind Max Verstappen and that his chances are rapidly diminishing. It will soon be mathematically impossible. That Oscar Jack, at that proposition, his face was beaming, realising he'll no longer be subject to team orders. Oscar was like, yeah, I only did the team orders things once in Brazil, sprint race, but it's good that I don't have to do it anymore. It allows him to race a bit freely. He says that he's ready to fight for a championship. Lando Norris and the rest of them need to be scared. Therefore, and by the way, as we round third base, let's talk about this very quickly, because it sounds like Cadillac, right, look, we need an 11th team on the grid. That much we can all agree on in the room, surely. We have consensus. Are we not quorate? Well, then let's continue. Andretti have been doing their best to get on. But again, F1 for me, as I understand it from a distance, has always been a hearts and minds endeavour. You've got to foster rapport. Got to shake some hands and kiss some babies. Do you know what I mean? You can't get into F1 by bullying, by being bullish, by going into the paddock in the pit lane and getting your elbows out and forcing team principals, some of whom are team owners, billionaire team owners, by forcing them to sign an agreement to say that they want Andretti in Formula 1. It's just not going to work. Not going to work, Michael. I don't care if your daddy's Mario. In fact, you know what the joke is? If Mario had done it, then he might have commanded more respect and more cachet. Because it was Michael doing it. Michael, who are you? You are nothing but the son of Mario. That's all like your career. Okay, so he was a brilliant North American driver for a while. But F1 doesn't know you. You came in alongside Senna for a while and your career was a madness. You failed to base yourself out of Europe to optimise for success. You saw what Colapinto have done. All the drivers that come from that neck of the woods, they move here with a view to optimise for their chances of success. Michael Andretti dug his heels in when he was an F1 driver and decided he was going to operate out of North America. Now, you can do that if you're exceptional. But Michael Andretti, as far as his career in F1, was nothing if not mediocre. And so he was always doomed to fail. Herein lies the issue. When he comes in the garage and tries to force the hand of a Christian, you imagine somebody going into the garage saying, Christian, sign this, mate. What is this, Michael? No, you got to sign it because that confirms that you give us, that you want us to be in F1. Christian's going to look at you like, what? What are you talking about? Who are you? Sign what for who? Christian Horner. Nobody's going to force Christian Horner to do that. Hence why I say, got to go in there and kiss some babies, shake some hands, buy some people some drinks. That's the way that you curry favour in F1, in my humble opinion. And that's exactly what Michael Andretti was not doing. I say all that to say this. Now that Michael Andretti is out of the picture, the chances of Andretti, or even at the very least an 11th team potentially named Cadillac and not Andretti, that's why the chances of an 11th team on the grid as at 2026 parabolic settings doing one of these. Now there's stuff going on in the background though, ladies and gents, a lot of stuff. GPDA chaos, friction settings between the GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, and the FIA. Mohammed Ben Sulayem. What's going on? Just nonsense. Can't even talk about that level of competence. There aren't words nor signifiers sufficient to give the extent of that chap's and that organisational incompetence, the breadth and depth. There aren't words, ladies and gentlemen. So at this point, so late in the evening, I won't even try. He's just been shocking, right? By dint of the number of key personnel who have left that organisation over the past few years, serious ones. Should we try and go through? Should I test my memory? Nils Wittich, Nielsen, Goss, Shailean Rao, Deborah Mayer. There's been a ton. I've only named 5, and there's at least another 10 that I should be able to remember off like that. These are senior people who were brought into the F1 to fix for it as a regulatory organisation, notwithstanding its regulatory capture. FIA compliance officer Paolo Basari, no longer there, and the FIA didn't even follow their own regulations. You can't get rid of the FIA compliance officer if indeed you don't have prior authorization from the FIA Senate. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, such a dictator is that chap, did it anyway. Lest we forget, that dude said some very sketchy things, conflicts of interest as far as Susie Wolff. Yep, we'll investigate it. Evidence not needed. How about him celebrating the anniversary of the Bahrain Grand Prix by posting pictures of Prince Andrew and Max Mosley, both of whom were shining examples of what it is to be human beings, were they not? Are they not? Lest we forget Mohammed Ben Sulayem, at least on 2 occasions, trying to influence the results of Grand Prix. Saudi Arabia 2022 as an example. Fernando Alonso finishes 3rd. However, they they give him a 10-second penalty, which takes him off the podium. But the problem for Mohammed Ben Sulayem is that dude had Aramco emblazoned as a title sponsor all over his car. Sounds nice, right? Have the Aramco car on the podium, perfect. So Mohammed Ben Sulayem allegedly tried his best to overturn that 10-second penalty that was given to Fernando Alonso as at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix 2022. Yeah, that sounds like the bastion of regulatory competence, doesn't it? Interfering with results. Just get rid of him. But the problem is twofold. They can't get rid of him. Sounds like he's going to run unopposed in 2025, December. I thought that he was on his way out, that I was just counting the days. Indeed, I've got a bottle of champers on ice ready to go when he is no longer the FIA president. But if word on the F1 curb is something that you are invested in, it sounds like 2 things. Potentially, Mohammed Ben Sulayem might run unopposed in December of next year. That's your first thing. Second thing is this. All of the related parties of Formula 1, they don't want to get rid of him before December 2025 because the argument goes something like this. F1, Liberty Media, FOM, FIA, you see Mohammed Ben Sulayem, they're all concerned about PR optics. And in sacking off Mohammed Ben Sulayem sooner than his tenure demands, before December 2025, again, it just looks bad from all parties, right? It looks like the right hand isn't talking to the left. Yeah, we know that that's the truth in substance. But to then go and get rid of him before time confirms it to all related parties, the viewers, the paying fans, the F1 community more globally, and nobody wants to do that. Not F1, not FIA, not Liberty Media, not the commercial rights holder, not the teams, not the drivers. However, Andrew Benson said on the Checkered Flag podcast previewing the Las Vegas Grand Prix that there is something, and I quote, going on in the background. You heard George Russell talking about the GPDA, that they put out that Instagram statement. They're saying that they just want to work with the FIA going forward. They don't like, a couple of weeks ago, you heard them say they wanted to be treated as adults. And that, of course, makes sense. That the bloody drivers, they're millionaires, young 20-year-old, multi-millionaires for Pete's sake. The most broke driver on the grid was Logan Sargent. He was getting $1 million before he left a year. So that means you've got to amend the way in which you address these guys. You, of course, base level rules of first principle, hygiene factors. In fact, you've got to treat these people like they're human beings. Put some respect on each of their names, right? What, F1 drivers, you're not going to treat them as if they're adult. This makes no sense. This is a base level requirement, surely, with respect. And that the GPDA had to put out that statement a couple of weeks ago saying that all the drivers just want to be treated as adults is an indictment on the way in which FIA, the regulatory body of F1, has been interacting with all of them. It's nonsense. Andrew Benson alluded thus, and again, I'm extrapolating here because he didn't say this. He said something's going on in the background. Here's where we are as at the 22nd of the 11th, 7 minutes past 9. The drivers, as at the time of writing, don't have voters' rights. Ergo, they can't get rid of Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Is that fair? I would argue not. If indeed you can say that the drivers, again, by virtue of incompetence of the FIA, which category of related party would you argue is affected most? The drivers, of course. Please see as your Exhibit A21 Abu Dhabi. Please see what Maximilian Verstappen has been going through, getting fined for swearing when Charles Leclerc drops the same word and then apologises immediately and he doesn't get the same fine. Max gets community service. Charles gets a fine. What's going on there? Consistently inconsistent, across the board. Hence why people, I'm guessing, per Andrew Benson, again, all F1 journos are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. Benson's one of the go-toest ones and has his fingers in a very many pies. For him to say something is going on in the background around drivers' voting rights, you've got to take that seriously, and it would make bloody sense, surely. If there's a small federation somewhere in, I don't know, somewhere in like Jamaica, Kayori, that they can have more influence on who is hired as the FIA, the head of the FIA, than say a Lewis Hamilton. I mean, come on. As I even outline it, as the words come out my mouth, it even sounds a bit disingenuous. Do you know what I mean? Mubashir says, Suffolk, it's legend when you're muting. Are you guys muting the Sky commentary, really? They're not that bad, surely. Look. Okay, let's talk about the commentary as you round third base here. Final point. I spoke to my financial advisor, and congratulations on your son getting married, mate. And I meant to say the other day. I don't think look, I get why people don't like Sky Sports. And Alex Jakes at this point in time. Listen, judging greatness is a moving target, right? We can have one conversation last year and then the conversation takes on a completely new, different set of parameters and engagements. Same time, 12 months later. Like, that's just how things move, right? Things evolve over time. Nothing is stasis forever. On a long enough timeline, the survival rate is always 0, whatever that means. I get the frustration with Sky. I tell you what, I probably would have cancelled. Pay £90 a month to Sky Sports F1. I enjoy being able to watch races. Like if I just go downstairs just now and I'm eating my dinner or having a late lunch, I enjoy being able to dial into 406 channel and just watch whatever's on. It might be showing Lewis Hamilton going through his Silverstone victories, but I like that. And what I do definitely like, what I definitely like also is Brundle on the pot. Listen, I tell you what, this is a pertinent one. You guys raised the proper thing, Kayori, Licklebutt with Tala and all them thing there. If they get rid of Martin Brundle, Houston, we have a problem. Instant cancellations. They will never get another penny from me. Who's going to be on the broadcast? And I know apparently there is an internal policy, a positive discrimination policy, saying that half of their hires have to be women. Down for that. But sign a proper one, that can talk to some things. Jamie Chadwick would be a decent start, as an example. Do not, if they ever take off Martin Brundle and put in his stead Danica Patrick, then it's wrap. They will never see another penny from me, and that's what's being muted, right? Johnny Herbert said of Damon Hill that if he leaves, then what's to stop Crofty leaving? What's to stop? Who knows whether Damon Hill, who knows whether Brundle won't be next? Because Brundle's not going to tolerate that. Now, Brundle might be more diplomatic with his words as far as his criticisms, being very disparaging of Maximilian Verstappen, brutally aware, more aware than Damon Hill was of the ramifications. And again, I don't want to condone that behaviour at Damon. You can't, you know what I mean? Social AB, never a good thing. Never a good thing in any context. If we can just disagree, right? This is the point of this channel, chat, so that when I talk foolishness, you guys can come in here and give it to me. You know what I mean? What are you talking about, Cameron? Because nobody bats 1,000. That's the point. But that doesn't mean that we can't be respectful as grown-ups, adult humans. Cameron looking like Lawrence Burrow. Oh, Nando. Please, Nando. How very... You know what? Lawrence is a good-looking chap. Like, do you know what I mean? How very dare you? Safak Cam, the topic was that we wanted you on F1 TV. Safak, you're a legend. And that, you know what, Safak? Do you really want me on F1 TV? Really? Because there is a tax to be paid with that. I can't go scorched earth on a Toto. The Toto, the boy who cried wolf, that I could never repeat that, right? The gift of this platform that you guys have built is that I can come out and be untethered, uncensored. You know what I mean? Just like Piers. Like, not to get too political, but I can come out here and be myself, Birmingham accent and all. When me and Kyrie are going back and forth, there may be a little bit of patois in it. I couldn't do that on Sky Sports. Couldn't be myself. Spanish as well. You guys hear me like to dip into un poco de español con acento cubano y todo. You understand? I couldn't do that. I couldn't be myself on Sky Sports F1. Not in its current form, at least. Maybe in its final form 10 years down the line. But you see Lawrence and they're all throttled, man. They're all, no pun intended, they're all shackled on there, as was Damon Hill. And Damon Hill decided that he wasn't going to be throttled. He was going to give an opinion and say some Dick Dastardly and, you know what I mean? And no, but like talk his opinion, whether that was right or wrong. And ultimately, he got he felt the full ramifications, didn't he? Safak, you're a legend. We need Cam on the BBC with Ralph Schumacher. Behave yourself, Nando. Ralph Schumacher is on Sky Sports Germany. You can, though, Cam. Serve the com service with Max. No, man. If mate, trying to cancel people for Brundle, trying to cancel people like Brundle is indeed not healthy, and he speaks of being insecure in themselves. I do not disagree. Just say no to... Oh, my God. Could you imagine... patois on syndicated television? Oh, the Rossi, man. I tell you what, though, it is happening, Coyote. Not in F1, because F1's too F1's too still too antiquated and too set in its ways as a sporting endeavour, and as a in broadcasting it. Always been that way. We're 5 to 10 years behind all the other sports. You see Stephen A. in North America going hard as himself, sporting debate as an industry, and we're not there yet. We in the UK, we can't handle that. Everything's far too prim and proper and tightly buttoned up. But ultimately, Kyrie, we will get there. Danny Rick, somebody did say that. I think Johnny Herbert put that forth as a recommendation that Danny Rick should replace Damo potentially. I don't know about that. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not good. Nico Rosberg, if we could get him, but he's got other sporting and other endeavours to take care of, right? His altruistic adventures, etc. I don't know. It's techie. Yeah, you can. Hill did. You go out with a bang and then they start Safak. It is a tax. It is a tax that needs to be paid, and indeed the price of doing business, guys. I'm gonna run. Let's go and shut my eyes for 10 minutes before we wake up and go live for qualifying 5:30 GMT. I worked that out to be how long now? 8 hours time. Bloody Nora. Go on then, you guys are legends. Thank you so much. I'm going to start to regiment these live chats. We'll go Friday as per usual. I'm going to pick either Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Monday. You guys let me know in the chat which day is perfect for you. I'll try and do one of these 60 minutes every single week. The rest of them will be the normal 8-minute hot takes where we go live and hard. Behave yourself, Cameron. Fire. we go live, strong and focused for 8 to 10 to 12 minutes. You guys have been legends. I will see you shortly for qualifying. We go live 30 minutes before lights out. Thank you guys so much. Andre, you're a legend. You guys are legends. Kayori, Golly, Gaza. Straight jeans unfitted. In a khaki suit, we did it. I'll see you shortly, 30 minutes before lights out. But I digress.